Awesome. Tom, thanks so much for joining me on Meld, man. It's an absolute honor to have you here.
Pleasure. Thank you extremely much for inviting me.
Yeah, man, I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I know we've been doing some back and forth. People can kind of get our little bit of our story, but you're without internet for a while when we were supposed to record. We had all this back and forth. So I'm so excited to have you on in here, man, and actually chat face to face. Twitter's been great. We're able to kind of like asynchronously kind of chat and see what we're all up to. But then having you on Zoom here face to face, man, and actually chat with you is awesome. So thanks so much for coming on here.
No worries. I think it's actually the first time I've ever lost internet in a place that I've lived, and it was the day of recording this podcast.
Oh man, and it's crazy because like for people listening too, I'm sure they don't know, but you don't live like in a city at all. Like you're like one of the few that are actually like remotely working, like actual remote work. So maybe you can kind of give people a little bit of a breakdown of like your living situation and kind of where you're at right now.
Yeah, so we moved kind of out of cities in general a while ago, just when the kids were growing up. So I have 3 children now, and because we've always been pretty like self-sufficient in terms of like not living near family, not relying on like grandparents or anything, we've always just moved around renting wherever we were kind of interested to live. And up until our eldest was 6, we could kind of pick and choose because she was like in nursery part-time and she hadn't started like school yet. So we ended up in this little village called Dobcross in an area called Saddleworth, it's called Saddleworth Moor. I think if you're listening to this from anywhere apart from the middle of England, then you will have probably no idea where on earth I'm talking about. But yeah, it's a little village. It's like a chain of 3 little villages, about half an hour from the city centre, nice and rural, near a load of hills, near nature. So yeah, we like it.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I love seeing your posts when you're doing daily runs and whatnot around there. It's just a beautiful place where you're living. So it's really cool that you're not in a city. You're in the middle of like the countryside. So it's pretty awesome that we're on the opposite ends of the earth right now and we're able to have this conversation. So this is fantastic. And I think for anyone listening to this podcast, I'd love to start off with your story, because I think some people listening to this, they'll get a lot out of this, and there'll be a lot of, I think, actionable tools, strategies, and like legitimate no-code tools we're going to get into. But I like to preface these things with a little bit of your story, because I want you to talk about what Makerpad is, what you do there, and kind of how you got into this whole no-code community, because you're like one of the few like thought leaders in this area. So I'd love to hear how that all happened, how that came to be.
How far back should we go?
I'll leave it to you. Whatever you find relevant, whatever you think is really cool, I'll leave it to you.
Okay. So I guess the journey into actually doing stuff online kind of started way back. So we'll make the first part short. Left school at 16 years old, played professional football for 3 years, got released end of my 3rd year, did 6 months at Bath University, got given a place to play for the football team, didn't have any A-levels, so that was a pretty nice gift. Decided that football kind of wasn't my thing, went into the world of work, started working for my grandpa, who unfortunately passed away recently, but he invented these old ladies' shopping trolleys. I don't know if you have them in the States, but they're basically these wire-framed, push-along-the-pavement shopping trolleys where old ladies will carry their groceries in or shopping. So I worked in a factory, my first real job, unpacking these 40-foot shipping containers from China and then repacking all of the trolleys individually for wholesalers. Like we've got a company over here called Argos. That was my first real job. Then after I got my feet under the table there, he noticed that he wasn't selling anything online. He was pretty old school. So took his business, put it online onto like eBay and Amazon's. First steps into e-commerce.
What year would that have been? What year did you do that?
So I was 19 at the time, 33 now. So yeah, 14 years ago. Wow. Something like that. So this is pretty old school. Started doing really well. He never paid me an ounce or a dollar or a pound in commission, which I was a bit annoyed about after a while. So I quit, started doing my own thing, set up a couple of businesses, failed pretty hard, lost a load of money, lost some of the bank's money, lost some investors' money. Back in the day, it was really easy to walk into the bank with a business plan written on one piece of paper with a crayon, and they give you thousands of pounds. Obviously, things have changed now, but being young and irresponsible, had no idea what I was doing apart from, I think this would be a cool website. Obviously, blew it on a new laptop and all the other stuff you shouldn't spend investment money on. Yep. Lost all of that. Tried again, failed again, then went into the normal world of work. Did a couple of digital recruitment jobs, always had a passion for tech. Then fast forward a bit, ended up going through the digital transformation route into a product management role, started like a few startups internally. I think there's like a word for it now, but like an internal entrepreneurial.
Yeah, entrepreneur or whatever. Yeah.
I guess that's the kind of word, like pretending to be an entrepreneur with none of the risk or responsibility that comes with it, maybe. Yeah. So I don't know if that's technically the same thing, but we did sort of that. So built some teams, launched a few products, then ended up moving on, did a coding bootcamp, found out that I was a terrible developer, terrible coder, just didn't fit right with my brain. I come from wasn't technical. I knew the frameworks of building products and how to build them from like a product management perspective and talking to developers, but actually handwriting code, it just did not click at all. So did the product management thing, did the coding bootcamp. Then my fiance got pregnant with twins. So decided to make the very responsible decision and quit my job and start a business. I tell everybody now that it was because I wanted the flexibility to be there for the twins, which I think is definitely part of it. But also I think it was part of the past failures and then actually wanting to be able to do something on my own, having been through that the last few years of, in air quotes, like normal jobs.
Right.
Did that, which was basically just doing anything on the internet that people would pay me for. So I could work for myself, work at home, have flexible working hours. And to cut a long story short on this side, the twins ended up coming 3 months prematurely. So was actually a savior that I did quit because I ended up doing most of my work in hospital by the side of their hospital beds. They ended up being in 2 different hospitals. One of them was £2, one of them was £3. So they ended up being split up between like a really high dependency hospital, which was able to cater for that type of premature baby. So we had to travel between both of them every day for months. So yeah, it was a bit of a savior. And then fast forward a couple of years, they're all well and good now. They're just turned 3. A year ago, last September, I joined Makerpad a couple of months before, just in the community. And Ben advertised for a job. So he would say, would you like to join the team to start like creating content? I think he just posted a message in Slack. And when I saw the message, I was in the mindset of thinking like what I'd want to do. I joined Makerpad because I wanted to start my own thing again, maybe build a product. And then I saw the message and got out of my chair and walked downstairs and just thinking, no, that's not for me. But managed to stop myself halfway down the house, turn around and just think, I've got nothing to lose. Let's just find out what it is. So I went back upstairs, wrote him a message back, sent him a couple of Integromat flows, I think it was, that I built, a couple of automations. Cool. And yeah, he sent me a couple of challenges to build, a couple of bots to build, which were actually pretty tricky. I think he actually asked me to build a Shopify reporting tool and a couple of Integromat automations, like a Slack bot and something else. So I built those. And yeah, long story short, we're here a year and a bit later and things are going well.
That's awesome, man. That's a really cool story. And like, I think what's really interesting too is that sort of like mix between the entrepreneurship. You obviously still have that entrepreneurial mind, And you're doing some crazy shit here with the Makerpad now. So it's really cool because you are kind of like leading your own thing at Makerpad, are you not? Like you're kind of like leading content. And from what I'm seeing online, you're just kind of leading that community, doing a lot of podcasts, lots of content. So it's really cool, all the stuff you get to do. So I guess like my question for you, kind of like following up to that, is like, what are your main things now? What are you doing at Makerpad now? What are your main things that you're focusing on over at the company?
Yeah, so we are obviously a small team. So most of us wear many hats. I'm sure many startups do. But at the moment, I'm focusing on content in general, mainly around the podcast and events and live streams. And then occasionally like tutorials. So I started off in tutorials and now I'm doing that side of things. But we do a bit of everything, really. And it kind of changes day to day. New things come up. So yeah.
Yeah, how would you describe Makerpad? Like for people listening, we probably should have started with that. So maybe people listening now, how would you describe it?
So Makerpad is a resource and a community where we teach people how to build software. Let's give that like a general thing, software without needing to write code. And software could be websites, mobile apps, web apps. It could be automations. It could be entire businesses, but without needing to be a developer. And this was the sort of thing which couldn't happen before now because the products weren't there to be able to do it. So the tooling wasn't there. But recently, obviously, tools have got a lot better following in the early days of things like WordPress, Shopify, etc. Now you can build anything, which kind of lends itself to that software word without writing code. So before it was kind of websites, but it wasn't really software. Now it's kind of jumped that gap. So coming to Makerpad, you can learn how to build anything without writing code.
That's so awesome. And I feel like there's not that many people doing that. I feel like you guys are like maybe one of the first, at least in the terms of a community, because I haven't seen anyone really doing that. I remember getting into no code. I think Webflow was sort of my introduction to this world. And they're obviously like one of the crown jewels right now of the no code community. They have their own conference, the no code conference and whatnot. But I think like we share a similar story, at least with the software side of things. Like when it came to actually coding versus now using products to build software. Like you don't have to now code to actually make it, it's incredible, man. Like for people like you and me, where like we're probably more on the creative side, more on like the product side. It's like, I don't want to have to be able to code, but I want to have the freedom to build the software. I don't have to rely on other people. I want to be able to just build the thing, So it's really cool
100%.
what's really come out, what's come out in the last couple of years. I can't even really believe it because I remember trying to build mobile apps like even 2016. So not that long, like 4 years ago. Things have exploded since then. Like the furthest I could get at the time was like making prototypes with like, Sketch and InVision. But now when you do that, those apps actually work. So how, I don't know, man. Like, what have you been finding lately that have really been blowing your mind? Because for me, that's what's blowing my mind. You can build apps and websites without any code, and it works exactly as you would expect it to be. So, has there been anything like lately that's blown your mind that's come out?
So you see new tools every single day now, I think.
Yeah.
But then they kind of get whittled down. So people often try to like copy tools and like pinch functionality of one from to another. So you're actually getting like a more complete tool set, but rarely do you get like tools that kind of really stand out and fill a gap. So we'd say like the main core, let's call it a stack for lack of a better word, of most like no code makers. It'll be like on the website, you're talking like Webflow, obviously you mentioned, like people using Airtable for lots of use cases. Like Zapier is obviously the glue. Then you've got things like Integromat, which is similar to Zapier. Glide Apps is incredible, just mobile apps from a Google Sheet. Adalo equally is incredible, web apps and native mobile apps without writing any code. And also these have all got free tiers as well. That's the most mind-blowing thing. Then you've got applications which venture into not necessarily just like you and me. If you wanted to build like, let's say you wanted to build like a directory app for something, me and you could pick up, let's say Glide Apps, and we just build like a directory app like in 30 minutes and it'll be done and we haven't spent a penny. But these no code tools now are kind of evolving and developing into the more robust like business sphere. So if you are a non-technical, technical product builder, consultant, whatever you want to call it, that is well versed in no-code tools but can't code, you can still be extremely useful to a lot of businesses now. So, for example, a tool like Parabola is actually a plug. This one, this
nice.
bottle that I'm using, I don't know if it'll focus in.
Oh, it will. Yeah.
Yeah, they're basically like replacing what a middleware would be, where you're actually connecting systems together in a way that Zapier and Integromat do, but to do with tables of data. So you're actually manipulating data like a data scientist. And then there's machine learning and prediction modeling tools like obviously AI. So there's lots of ones that kind of slot into these really interesting places in the entire ecosystem. So yeah, there's no shortage of tools that will blow people's mind the first time they see them.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I love how you already brought that up. It's like we're almost shifting from these like makers, for lack of a better term, I don't know, like you said, consultants to developers, like just solo entrepreneurs are just like building things, to like now like businesses using it. Like it's not just like people like, oh, I have an app idea, I want to build it. Now it is like businesses actually using them as part of their workflow. Because I mean, like a lot of these businesses already subscribe to a bunch of SaaS products, right? The software as a service. So this is just like another tool in that tool belt. But I think also what you're saying is like these tools just keep coming out. Like there's always new tools are popping up. You know, if you follow anything on Product Hunt, it's like every single day there's like dozens of new products, and they're amazing. They're great. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like some people kind of get obsessed with like the tools rather than like the strategies, you know? So what have you, like, what have you seen? What have you seen like for like strategy wise, rather than just like, oh, let's try this tool and that tool? I mean, you mentioned a few that are like tried and true, like the Webflow Airtable stack that everyone's using. When it comes to the strategy though, and there are these companies like want to evaluate these tools, and you know, they're going to spend thousands of dollars sometimes per month on these tools. What would you tell them to like kind of evaluate them and find a strategy around it, rather than just kind of like try every tool out there?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to functionality. The problem will be that consultants who will think they're well versed in no-code tools, like I think many industries, will sell the dream to companies. And then what happens when they hit like a blocker that, let's say, the no-code tool you chose can't do the piece of work or the integration with their key piece of software that needs to be done halfway through the project. Yeah. And because you're not technical or a developer, like that's it. That is end of the road. They have to pay someone else to do it, or you have to switch out your entire tool. So yes, it's great. There's so much opportunity, but you need to know your tools. Flipping the script onto the like traditional software side, I'm sure it's the same for software engineering. You wouldn't pick a programming language that wasn't right for the job, wasn't right for the use case.
Yeah.
You wouldn't pick some ancient, slow programming language that was cumbersome, was going to be slow loading, nobody could read, you couldn't find additional developers to code it if it did go wrong and you need to add extra resource. So knowing the tools is really important, and spending the time to actually like scope out projects, especially when you're working with businesses, to the nth degree, really, because there's so many manual processes at businesses. Let's take automation, for example. There's so many manual processes that can be automated. But what happens is if companies get used to relying on the no-code tools to do it, and then they need a critical piece that can't be done unless you can code, that's when you get into trouble. So having a proper strategy and scoping these things out properly is essential if you are, let's say, a no-code consultant trying to implement solutions for anyone.
Oh man, that's such a good point though, because like obviously, as we know, I've been doing a lot of no-code stuff as well. So like that's a big part of what I do with like my projects. And I haven't even realized that, man. You just brought that to light to me. Like a big part of my job was literally scoping out the tools, like making like Notion docs of like why this tool and like what can we do, what can't we do, can it integrate? Like, but to put things on the other perspective, you already alluded to it, even with like traditional software. My brother started building basically his own course portal, like an online course portal. And he hired developers to do it. And I'm like, first of all, dude, you should have just used MemberStack and Webflow, but they didn't listen. So they went on and they built it from scratch. they started using SQL, like, right, to build databases. SQL is great.
Mhm.
They got screwed because the version of SQL that their developer used doesn't even have a Zapier integration, which is like a Zapier integration's like base level nowadays. I feel like Zapier is now just like, if you don't have that, if you don't at least have the Zapier integration, I don't even look at the tool right now. Integromat, if they have that, I'm like, okay, great, I'll go for it. But if there's no Zapier integration, it's like, how are you even functioning right now? I feel like that's like a marketing channel in itself now, you know?
Yeah,
It's crazy.
You could find a million businesses in whatever country you live in and just message them about their current software stack and do they have product A tied to product B. So I think I tweeted out an example a few months ago now where I said a good way to get automation leads would be go to like a site like Built With or anything that gives you the background tech on a website. And you can see, for instance, they'll use something like HubSpot and I don't know, Trello, for instance, or HubSpot and any other system they're using. You could just say, hey, so you are using HubSpot and Tool B. Did you know you can automate this process? And here's how you do it. And you just send them like a quick like Loom video, 30 seconds of you actually connecting it together. And that's such an easy way to get leads because they'll think, hang on, this process can be automated. It can take 1 second. I've got a person sitting here on a full-time salary doing that as their full-time job. Like, what am I doing? Obviously, I'm going to pay to have that set up. And like, what other process have I got?
Right. That's so true. Yeah. So like literally finding I mean, it kind of sucks. I always have like this internal like dialogue in my mind. It's like, yeah, you can like replace people. I'm like, oh, but then you're just screwing those people over who have like full-time jobs. You think they have like families and stuff. But I'm like, but then at the end of the day, as the agency, if you're an agency running that kind of stuff, it's like, it's good for your business and it will help the business to save. So I think like there's always this talk around automation sort of like taking away jobs. And like the first thing people think of is like factory jobs, like, oh, automated like robots and stuff, right? Or like self-driving semi trucks, like the new Tesla coming out. And they're like, oh, they're going to take away those jobs. But when I think of automation, it's exactly like you said. I think of like the Zapier and Integromat automations of like these knowledge workers, where it's like they're just doing manual data entry. That's going to be like, I could do that in an hour on Zapier. I can just like type those two tools in, create an automation for that, and like your job is just gone. So it's, I don't know, man, it's like a weird thing for me. I have like a weird love-hate with that because I'm like, a lot of people are gonna lose jobs, but it's worth it. Like when you're setting up a new business, that should be from ground floor, right? Like 0 to 1. Yeah. You're gonna implement that. You have to.
I don't think people will lose jobs. I think like historically we've always seen when new technologies are adopted, people just move on to different jobs. Like as quickly as people like lose jobs to certain new technologies, new jobs get created because new technologies create new jobs. So when like, let's take the example way back when cars were invented, there was less people needing to pull carriages around on horses. Like those people, they didn't just like stop existing. They just like found other jobs, and cars created probably a lot more jobs than there were horsemen, for instance, or any other jobs that involved like looking after, breeding, owning horses. Like obviously that's a bad example with like robots.
That was a great example. Yeah.
But I think as technology gets more advanced, it just frees up humans for more creative work. So I think there's a lot of people talk about humans are best at creative work. So computers at this stage, I'm going to caveat that one because a lot of people have had to eat their words recently over saying that computers will never be able to do this. And then like 2 years later, they have. Obviously, it's happened with chess, it happened with Go, and now it's happening with GPT-3, now it's happening with anything. Even the people who are kind of looking at it and say, yeah, okay, it's still pretty primitive. Like, okay, but it's getting better, and it's getting better quickly. I still think, yeah, these things always create more jobs than they, let's say, destroy or replace.
Totally. And I guess that's why Makerpad exists in the first place, right? It's like teaching those people who would otherwise kind of be out of a job. They're like, hey, well, you can also learn how to create these automations here. You can create these apps. Because I guess there is kind of like those two two sides of like the no code, right? It's like automating those things and learning how to use the tool in itself, right? So what have you like really seen people using these no code tools for? I mean, you guys have a huge community of people doing all kinds of things. So what are the sort of like the main things you've seen them doing, like business wise and I guess maker wise, sort of like two prongs there?
Yeah. So there has been even a bit of a shift in terms of the time that we've been running, which is about a year. So we started off, well, Makerpad started off, and say we, so Ben takes full credit for Makerpad, obviously. Started off as purely like helping people build like projects. I think one of the famous ones is how to build like Airbnb without code. So people would think, I want to build an Airbnb, but for this, or I want to build like this for this. I can now build it without code. So that was the entrepreneurs, the makers who actually wanted to build a product for themselves. But now we're seeing a shift to people who are coming from businesses. Say they own a business and they want to, how can we make our sales team more effective with more advanced tooling, with connecting systems together? And these aren't just small businesses, these are people coming from enterprise. So now there are a huge number of enterprise grade tools which are automating processes at scale, and it is getting like an increasingly big percentage of what's essential to have a business running well. So I think as important as it is a company like Makerpad, for instance, who's a small startup, to be able to leverage these tools properly, we have, I think it's like 135 Zaps running Makerpad on any given day, which I've got no idea like how many people we'd need to hire to be able to do the amount of sheer tasks that happen every day at Makerpad to run like all these different systems. But that at scale in an enterprise sized company is clearly a big opportunity. And the people who know how to use these tools, in this time, let's bring up Tray, for instance, which is like an enterprise grade automation platform. So you've got like Zapier, maybe on like the low to the medium sized business end. And then you've got something like Tray and Brighter on the enterprise end. So yeah, I think they're two sides of the same coin. And also people can bridge the gap from coming in as a maker in Makerpad at the bottom end and just creating tools for themselves, to learning how to use the platforms effectively, identifying opportunities, to consulting for businesses, to launching their own businesses while consulting for other businesses, becoming like an expert in a couple of tools. Let's take someone like Andrew Davidson. He's got a Zapier and automation agency called Luhu. Shout out to him. He just uses Zapier and Integromat, and he is a master at them. And all he does is implement and automate processes for small, medium-sized businesses. And he is killing it. He is so good. But there's awesome. Endless amounts of these companies. So we're seeing these people all through the spectrum, to working from like the bottom end all the way through to the top end.
That's awesome. I mean, I would love to see, like, I'm sure there are, I'm sure we haven't even heard of them. I would love to see like, these small agencies that like do automation just for like dentist office. Like I'd love to see like if all dentist office have the same processes, you know, they have, it's like, hey, you're not using Calendly yet for like booking appointments. You should
just package it up.
Yeah. And you just repackage it. And you can almost like what I have done too, and I've seen, is you can almost like use those tools and like white label them and then sell them as yourself, and you have a service on top of it, right? I've seen a lot of people do that, which is awesome.
Yeah, like creating app templates and stuff. Yeah, you can create app templates in like Adalo. They have an app marketplace, or Glide. You can create templates and sell them. Yeah, a big fan of that. I think we're just touching the surface. And also that's probably another like sector to mention. I'm about to publish a blog post on it actually, where I think there's giant opportunities for two groups of people that can be nimble enough to be able to leverage these tools quickly and easily. And that is like the small to medium sized businesses, which have manual processes, but they're not too cumbersome to be like blocked by any like red tape of implementing new systems. And then you have these like the new breed of like sovereign online creators who are leveraging their personal brands to launch things like communities, courses, digital products. So if you're launching a community, a course, and a digital product combined with no-code tools, or somebody who knows how to leverage these properly, you have infinite leverage on the people you can reach, the systems you can create, and the amount you can do like at any one time. So
oh my God, it's huge. The leverage is insane. Like you said, how many people do you have at Makerpad right now? How many of you are
like
full time?
4 of us full time, but then a few like part time as well.
That's okay. So only 4 people. And you said there's about 150, 130 something zaps going on?
Yeah, 136 zaps, I think.
Jesus. So, and do you know how many tasks there are? Because usually they give you an email at the end of the week, right? Like you've saved this many hours. Like, did it tell you how many people it would take to do what you guys do with 4 people? Or do you guys know roughly?
I haven't even looked.
Because I think that's such a good case study. That's a crazy thing, man. Like the leverage is insane. You could do the work of 50 or 100 people with 4 people, small startup, which is great because you can be profitable much quicker if you're running a startup. It makes total sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me nowadays if you're going to start a business to not do it. But the problem is not a lot of people know about it, right? It's still a very small little niche, right? Well, I guess, again, I'm assuming that's what you guys are trying to do. And that's your main goal right now, doing content, I assume. It's just kind of getting the word out. So maybe we can kind of switch over that content creation side. Like, what are you doing to kind of get the word out? What have you seen effective to get people jazzed about and excited about no code? And also, like, we'll get into this after, but I think a better name than no code eventually, because I think maybe that steers people off. But anyways, yeah. So content wise, how do you find what works, and like how have you been approaching your content creation to get people excited and more people to kind of know about no code?
Do you know what? I think that's like 2 different sides of the same coin, like getting people excited and getting people to know about it. Because what gets us excited and people like within the community about what we think is exciting isn't the thing that's going to bring more people into this space. We have done like 200 tutorials covering everything from basics to all the way up to, let's say, like building a Patreon clone without code in like a couple of hours. What would you guess is our most popular tutorial on YouTube? Which by like context would have likely brought the most people into the community. And it's not I'm just close, it is.
I'm going to go ahead and say it's the most boring thing. I don't know what it is, but it's probably the most boring thing you guys actually put out.
Typeform the basics is our most basic.
No way. Just learn how to use Typeform.
Like that does not excite us or anyone in the slightest, apart from the people who have never seen Typeform before. So if you have never seen Typeform before and you don't have a system which could take info in, add it into, say, I don't know, even just like send it you on email, or like take a booking, like take a payment, put it into your diary and add it to like a Google Sheet. If you've never seen that before, that will blow your mind. So
it's true.
These are the things that are really exciting to people who've never seen it before. But there is obviously the problem of once you are like in the no code, in the no code community, like these sort of things don't excite you because you know what else is possible. But it's really important that to get the word far and wide and to bring like no code to everybody everywhere, which is like our mission at Makerpad, is to focus like on getting the word out that these basics are possible. You can build simple apps and simple flows that will save you time and make it possible and easy for you to launch products, start businesses, and automate work. Like, because that's like the crux of it. So more focus on the basics, definitely.
That's what you're going to be doing. Do you have any ideas, or do you have like a content calendar that you can kind of show off a little sneak peek of what you're going to be working on?
So we do have a content calendar. We do need to like combine the basics with the more exciting stuff. So we do a lot of like workshops and tutorials on the new tools that come out. Let's say shout out to Trav and Super. So when Trav launched Super, so you can now turn Notion into a website. Like really easy, like really great products. You've done really well. Kudos. That was great. So we had to cover how to build like a membership site using like Notion, Super, and Memberspace. Make sure I get it right.
There's so many memberful, member stack, member space. Yeah.
That's the one. So we need to create content like that just because we have obviously a paid community, and the people in the no code space, they want to constantly be pushed and reminded of what's possible. But we need to obviously balance that out with bringing more people into the ecosystem, because bringing more people into the ecosystem means more products are created, which then they spread the word and they tell others, and it just keeps that going and keeps the flywheel turning, keeps everyone like in a job, and keeps the space growing, which means that's good for everybody.
Yeah, no, 100% about the flywheel too. Like even just if anyone listening, just go on the Makerpad site and you'll see what I mean by the flywheel as well. You guys have done such a tremendous job of like bringing all those pieces together. Like there's the tools, the companies, there's even a job board on there, and then the people learning. So it's like it all feeds into one another, and it's so cool. Like it's a perfect flywheel from what I see anyways. I'm sure every organization is different from the inside, but from what I see on the outside, it looks awesome. And I guess like before we kind of move on to this, so you're saying there's all these things that sort of excite you. And I think I'm on the same boat as you, where it's like, it takes a little bit more to excite you now when you are a no coder. Okay, I know the basics. It's going to take something big to sort of excite you. So what has been exciting for you that you've seen lately?
That's actually a really good question. I haven't actually thought about it.
Other than Descript. Probably, I guess it's going to be Descript then, maybe.
Yeah. So two things on the tool front. One's definitely Descript, because definitely bias I think it's actually my favorite tool. It just makes creating content so easy. So editing audio, just delete the text, and now editing video is as easy as deleting text. So Descript are doing an amazing job. Obviously, they got overdub, so you can just type and fix your voice without having to like re-record it. That's great. That's on the tool front. And I think still Adalo is one of the tools that really, really excite me, just because it hits the sweet spot with simplicity. So anybody coming into the space with no technical knowledge at all can use Adalo and create a native mobile app and a web app. And also what they've recently added is like a component marketplace. So now you can bring in that additional functionality that we said could block you if you're a no coder and you haven't scoped a project outright. So what they've done is you can hire a developer to code a custom component for you, and they can make it available for you inside your app. So let's say you do hit that blocker, like there is that option. Whereas in like other platforms, you can hit a bit of like a closed loop, and it can be quite awkward to do that sort of work. So yeah, that's something which is really inside me. They're doing great work over there. Yeah, I'm going to put
that's awesome.
my hat on that one.
That's awesome. I honestly had no idea that they had the ability for, I guess you can call it custom code. And that's what they call it in Webflow too. So it's like there aren't really any blockers anymore, as you said. Like there's no way to really get stuck. And I didn't know Adalo did that, because when I think I checked them out maybe a couple months ago now, so it's been a while, but I wasn't too impressed. I'm like, hey, it was great. I got a few things, but I felt like what you could do was limited in it. But I guess now what you're saying is like it's unlimited. You can kind of do whatever. I'm sure there's still some sort of limitations, but you know, it's getting there.
Yeah, I think it depends obviously like where you're at and what you're trying to do. So if you're like a seasoned no coder and you're really like trying to like push complexity, and you want like the styling of Webflow combined with the simplicity of like Adalo and the power of Bubble, then you're just wanting like the best of all worlds. But if you're someone coming in and you've never in a million years would you ever dream that you could afford to build out your idea of a mobile app that you keep thinking about in your sleep, and then you come across Adalo and you just drag something onto the screen. And the same goes for something like Glide, is you just type something into a Google Sheet and it's there on your phone as a mobile app. Like holy shit, this is incredible. And also sometimes I think constraints are good in anything, because I think if you give people like a blank canvas with nothing and no guidelines, you almost like get like paralysis. Whereas sometimes you're like, oh, okay, just put that there, connect it up. And then when you get to the end, you're like, oh, okay, let me like tweak it a bit. And it's missing a bit of styling, but it's 80% of the way there rather than 0% of the way there.
Yeah, totally. And I think Shopify does a great job of that. I never really dove into it until this year. We started a clothing brand. So shout out Long Boy. I'll put the link in the description. Wiener dog clothes. Well, it's clothes for human inspired by wiener dogs, but we wanted to set up a site really quickly. And I was like, oh, I want to do it on Webflow. Like I want to make a really nice, beautiful site. I'm like, man, this can take so long. Like just thinking of every little component. You go into Shopify and they have so many great templates. Like sure, Webflow does as well, but like I think Shopify does such a good job of that. It's like here's literally everything you need. Plug in your products and you're good. Like just go publish it. Like you don't have to worry about it. So I think it's like that fine line, right? Where it's like sometimes you just want to showcase the content or the data. And then sometimes you want it to be beautiful. Like you want it to be like a huge, like a really crazy Webflow site with all these like animations and whatnot. So I think it's like a fine line, you know, it's figuring out, I guess, you know, whatever it is that you're trying to actually build. But
just one thing to add to that as well, like 90% of the things that people try and build do not need like a fully customizable platform to build it on. I think probably even higher, probably 95% of the questions we get about how can I build the thing can be done like within these tools with like no additional functionality needed, like within the constraints of the easiest to use platform. Like I know it's a bit maybe like demoralizing in a way to think that your like master plan of an idea that's going to turn you into a millionaire requires some sort of complexity, which was acting as like a blocker for you to like ever build it out yourself. Like these platforms completely eliminate that. And once people realize that they can do it, it's like the best aha moment you've ever seen when someone actually gets that thing in front of them and they've built it without being able to code.
It's crazy.
Truly
and
magic.
Technically it's mad. It literally is magic. And you can do it in like a couple hours, which is insane. I mean, other than like some of the learning curve, but if you knew like the tools and how to do it, you can create it. But do you think that changes, or maybe not changes? Do you think that like devalues those projects because the barrier to entry is so low now? Or do you think it's even better because more people can do it? Because I feel like people can just copy ideas super easily nowadays. Like what? And I guess follow up to that is like, what is the barrier now? What becomes the moat when you're building these no code projects?
Creativity. Well, and also people are also lazy. So creativity and laziness, I think, is like the opportunity and the blocker. So let's say you are proficient in a number of no code tools, which a lot of people can now be if they wanted to just open the website and like try and build something. They can build practically anything, or like 95% of things. Does that mean there's 1 million versions of every single product? No. Like if you talk about like a business idea you've got, do 30 people copy you instantly? Like no, it just doesn't happen like that. People might think they're going to copy you, but they don't like end up doing it. So, and also you see really simple products launching like all of the time where people go, oh, I could have built that. Like, well, why didn't you?
Exactly.
People just don't do it. So I think, yeah, it devalues it from a standpoint of cost for the people who are charging to build it in the first place.
Okay.
But let's take a good example of a bit of client work that I did a few months ago. Somebody locally in a village just down from me wanted to build a 2-sided marketplace for gatherings of people who are lonely around like festive occasions. And they didn't know that this world existed or the tools to use to get it done. They approached an agency, like a dev shop in Manchester, I think it was, and they quoted them £60,000 to build this 2-sided marketplace, which wasn't being done as something to like earn revenue. They were just trying to do it as like a nice thing to do. And then I think they saw me online somewhere and just messaged like a random message. And I heard what they did, and I did it for like almost nothing. And in like a day in ShareTribe, and their minds were blown. But also, like, why was I being quoted £60,000? And like, how many other people is this happening to? And how long has it been happening? So yeah, there's just a lot of craziness, and people are slowly getting more and more aware to the fact, and we just need to tell more people that this is an option.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. So first of all, the tool that you use was ShareTribe to make the marketplace. Cool. Yep. I'll put the link in the description. I'm going to check that. I've never heard of that. So I'm going to have a follow-up question. I'm just going to poke that in my mind right now because I have a follow-up question for you on that tool side. But man, you're so right. It's like, it would have cost $60,000 maybe 10 years ago. But I think what happens is then you get a SaaS product like ShareTribe that's like, we're going to make it so anyone can make this, because they could have been that agency that built it once. But then they built a layer on top of that so anyone can build it. It can be duplicated and replicatable, which is exactly how Shopify started, right? It was Toby, the CEO of Shopify, wanted to make an online store for his snowboards, to sell snowboards. And he's like, man, it's so hard to do this. I'm going to build a software that'll let anyone build their own online store. So I can only imagine how many different things there are in different verticals for that same idea of like, hey, I had this idea. I want a bunch of people to do it. But now we're layering that again. You can almost do it like there's a software that lets you build the software for other people to build software, if that makes sense. It's getting layered on. So crazy, man. But it would have cost, the moral of the story is it would have cost 60 grand, but a couple of years ago when that tool didn't exist. But now the leverage.
No, it's even worse than that. It still costs 60 grand.
I know.
Like, it's still, people are still paying this like exorbitant amount of money, like every single day. I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah, and it's crazy because they're going on, if they don't know anyone, they're either going online, they're Googling like software development agency, and of course they're going to charge like so much because they're going to build it from scratch. They're not going to be, hey, I know a tool for that. So I think that is an opportunity, right? There's a dev shop that can just be like, hey, we have a directory of all these tools that can build that in a fraction of the time for the fraction of the cost. We'll help you do that. But I guess you're more of a consultant at that point. Well, I guess if you're still building off of it, you're still a developer or designer.
You're still building it. I think visual developer is like a good term. I quite like that. I think we need more shops like Minimum Studio. The guys over here in Europe are great, and also 8020 over in the States. Shout out to Matt and Andrew Wilkinson. I know they just combined forces on it. So we need more dev shops like that, because it's just like in essence, there's just such a good opportunity to stop people getting shafted on building like simple software platforms, simple websites, simple apps for exorbitant amounts of money. And also what it does, it frees up software engineers, which are the lifeblood of our technological and innovation world, to do like more, like just do more important things. Like it just makes sense.
Yeah, man, I agree so much. Like they shouldn't be doing the 80% of work that basically, like you said, visual developers can do. People who know Webflow and know Shopify, know all these tools to build 80% of it. They need to be hired by these companies that are building the tools to enable other people. They need to be building like these like deep integrations and high level projects. I totally agree, because it's like they need to be freed up. They need to be working on things that excite them, that are actually like going to move the needle forward, because like the amount of like just mediocre things I see them building, it's just like, no, like just use a tool for that. Like you don't need to build that from scratch. Don't code that. You should not be coding. It's insane, man. But then on that note, it's like, so this was my other thought. I'm going to bring it back. It was like, you immediately knew which tool to use. Like when that person came up to you and like, hey, I want to build this marketplace. You're like, oh yeah, we should be using ShareTribe. So how do you know which tool to use for which purpose? Do you have like an internal like database, or how do you kind of like store that information to be able to recall? Is that just like natural talent of just like loving the space, or how do you know, and how can other people know?
Yeah, so this is like probably the first time it's good to have shiny object syndrome. I thought it'd always be like a detriment to my career as a person, but it's almost the thing that I get paid to do is like know the tool like for the job. I think Ben's most replied to tweet ever was, tell me what you want to build and I'll tell you how you can build it. And I think he had to stop.
I remember that
400 or something replies, because that is literally all people know how. Well, that's all they need to know is Can it be done without code? Yes. How do I do it? What tools do I need to use? Like, great. There you go. Go away. Try it. When you need help, like drop in the community. We can tell you how to do the thing that you need. And that is half of the battle. Just knowing the tools, having, again, like use the 20%, 80% rule. Like what 20% of the effort is going to get you 80% of the result. So just know the tool, know that it can do the things you want to do, and just start.
Right. And I think like just finding out the tools, which I'll link in the description, but you guys have a great resource for that too, right? You guys have a sort of tool marketplace for that.
Yeah, so we definitely don't have the most complete tool marketplace. And yeah, you can find no code lists anywhere, like on the internet. Obviously,
that's true. There are lots.
A few places like who've built similar things. Like, great, brilliant. It's good to actually know like all these new tools that are coming out, because keeping track of them every single day is like nigh on impossible. And also, Ben came from Product Hunt before he started Makerpad, so he's kind of even better well versed in that than me. So where Makerpad is the difference is the tools like listed on the platform are like, they're always vetted. They're likely paying to be on Makerpad, so they have some traction. They like have some money. They're likely going to be around for a while. This is also another problem. If you start building solutions on platforms that aren't going to be here in a few months, like you're going to get shouted at if you've sold a solution into a business and integrated a load of tools into it, and then the platform just ceases to exist. Like that's good. That's going to be
scary.
That's going to be an issue. Yeah. So yeah, the Makerpad tools are they're going to be around for a while. You obviously invest a lot of time like learning them, like how you can build different things with them. We've got a good relationship like with the teams. We do workshops, we do podcasts, etc. So yeah, I think there seems to be some apparent value in that.
Yeah, no, there's huge value in there. I check it out every once in a while. And I think like the other thing too, you kind of alluded to, is just like, yeah, once these products are vetted and you've been using it, that then becomes your go-to tool for X. So like maybe at the beginning you have shiny object syndrome, right? For like website builders, I'm going to use like Webflow and also Squarespace and also Wix and all these other ones, which you do at the beginning of your journey, right? You're trying to figure out all these things. Then I guess once you land on the one that you like the most and it hits everything for you, it hits all those points that you need it to do, and it connects with fucking Zapier, for God's sakes, then you know it's a winner, right? Then you're like, okay, like this is the one. And then you just kind of shelve that. You're like, hey, like website builder, for me, it's Webflow because I have like 500 clones in Webflow. Like if I ever wanted to sell my Webflow account, it would be worth like thousands right now because of the amount of sheer amount of like custom code and stuff that I have stored in there, man. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, you want to find that tool that you can just rely on. Like I think Webflow now, I'm like, okay, I can rely on them. They're profitable. There's lots of people paying for it. It's going to be propped up. It's going to keep going, right? You don't want to rely on some. Yeah, you don't want to be on some like VC funded software that kind of just blows up a year or two later, and then you're kind of screwed, right? Like that's so scary.
I think the problem probably isn't so much VC funded software, just because the platform or the space is like just catching fire. So there is like money coming in hand over fist and looking to invest in these next platform. Obviously, Ben has like a rolling fund on AngelList where we invest in like no code platforms as well. But it's one that's picking the ones that are going to be around and the ones that are well funded. So your Airtables, your Webflows, and like your Zapiers, who've got like Zapier have 2 million customers, they're not going anywhere. So if you build a solution on Webflow, Airtable, and Zapier, like that is going to be solid for the foreseeable future. If you're building your solution on, say, a mimic or like a clone of one of these tools with some additional functionality, like that's fine if you are building a project like for yourself. And there's likelihood is that some of these tools may still exist in a few months or a year or 2 years. Like that's great. But if you've got a choice of building on, say, Airtable and another tool, which may or may not look like Airtable and do some of the similar things with some of the additional like functionalities, then they're just like two different use cases. If I'm building a project for a business, which is having their like critical infrastructure or operations running through one of these tools, then you're going to pick Airtable. If you wanted to build like a flashy side project, which you just wanted to like get some additional functionality, which wasn't like critical, you weren't really earning loads of money, or it was on you to swap it out and is only affecting you, then yeah, like sure, like try some of these more like new flashy tools that maybe a little bit more of a chance.
Yeah, totally. And they all have free tiers, like most of these that come out too, right? So like I think there's a lot of opportunity to kind of try out, like do a side project first. So maybe that's actually a really good piece of advice. It's just kind of like do like a little side project for yourself first, vet it. I mean, you can never really know about like the actual business side. Like no one's going to tell you, oh yeah, we're running out of money. Like we're not going to be around. But at least if you vet the product and you're using it, you're good. Anything past that, it's just like you're rolling the dice. I don't know what to say. But yeah, man, that's a really, really good point. And on the point of everything kind of like catching fire now and the VCs kind of coming to this industry, what do you see as sort of like the biggest or a few of the biggest opportunities now for like startups to actually build no code tools and I guess add to that ecosystem?
So I think there's definitely an opportunity in like bringing over some more traditional software engineering practices from like, the traditional world into the no code world. So whereas no code flips the entire script on its head, like build first, amend, design, then try and get users. Whereas before it was like, okay, speak to users, like find what you're going to build, prototype, feedback, another prototype. But before you get to like the engineering stage where the real money like goes in, then design, then build, then amend, like these feedback loops, that's reversed in no code. So I think that's both good and bad. So good in terms of you can just start building, brilliant. You kind of remove that huge cost of not being able to engineer something or losing a load of money if you have to rebuild it. That's great. But I think the early stage, both things like design thinking, like prototyping and design, and also building stuff that no one wants and doesn't solve a problem is like very common. But I think it's good practice because you're building something, and every time you build something, you're like sharpening the sword, and it gives you more shots on goal. So let's say you were going to build one product in 5 years. You're going to save up, you're going to write a business plan, you're going to take a loan, you're going to get some investors, you're going to build it, you're going to put it out there and it fails. You're like, fuck. Now you can build like in that time, you can just get like a little bit of feedback. You can probably target a micro niche. So you don't have to target like a big group of customers. You can maybe target like 10 people, 50 people to like build and ship a product that takes a day to launch and then amend it and work on it, get more feedback. So that's good. But where the no-code side hasn't adopted those practices are things like testing, like version control, like design. They're kind of three things. So I think if you can build tools on that side, I think that's one good thing. And also the small to medium-sized businesses and anything to do with automating manual processes. I think that's going to be like a giant one. There's definitely still too much copy and pasting going around. Like
No kidding.
Probably 99% of businesses has processes that they need to be automated in. So any and all platforms that do that, I think they're going to be default like successful if they can kind of pitch themselves there. Like your Trays and your Zapiers are perfect opportunities for that. So yeah, I think there's just opportunities everywhere, to be honest.
Yeah,
really.
I think you're right. There's just an abundance because then within the Zapier and Integromat, the whole automation space, there's the mini tools that will connect them within there. So you just find one process that can connect to them all. You just got to find the one thing. So do you know anything in particular that you know that you would use at Makerpad or maybe in your own life that you have not found in the space, in the marketplace right now?
I think version control probably on a number of levels, not only the actual like product build itself, but also the automations. I've only seen one good example, and that was still manual, of logging what automations are running, what they do, like who touched them last. Because really, if you have a few people in a Zapier account, like without going into Zapier and digging around or setting up zaps that monitor your zaps across all other tools, you don't really know like what's happening. Whereas if you're working in like a traditional software engineering environment, you'll know when something's broke because it fails your unit tests so you know instantly what's broke and what needs to be fixed. Whereas there are ways to do it, but things like version control and having like clear layout of everything that's happening and when it breaks and how to fix it it's just not there yet, really.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts, so many spinning wheels all over the place, and you're like, oh my God, I don't even know what's doing what at a certain point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, holy crap, I didn't even really think about that. Because I mean, for things I've been doing, it's only been a couple dozen automations, like dealing with 160 or 100, was it 135? 135.
Yeah, we definitely don't have a good solution for it.
No, other than I guess like, do you guys have like a document or something like, hey, or here's the zaps, here's what they do, or do you like not even deal with that at this point?
It's like a constant work in motion because it's almost because you can build something so fast, you just build it. And we're having to like constantly remind ourselves to like log the process. Like, how does this work? Like, how are you doing this? Like, how can we make it repeatable? Because it's just easy to just charge on and build stuff. And that applies not only like in automations, but let's say like Webflow, you can change your whole site like 50 times a day and create multiple versions. So yeah, just like making sure that you're like logging, like, do you know if one version was better than another? Like, are you like testing stuff properly? Are you like comparing if one way is better than another, which I just don't think is happening. So yeah, there's lots and lots of areas to improve on.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, again, it's just all the opportunities, but do you think like that will just be something that like Zapier needs to do, or like whatever automation tool? You think that just needs to be like a built-in functionality of that, or do you think that would be like another tool on top of it, like layered? I guess it would just be Zapier, right? Like it's just kind of up to them to make a better solution.
So the problem is that you're likely using multiple tools for like different areas of business. So whereas traditionally your software stack would control like your product. Let's say you're a company with a web app. Your code and your unit tests would be like directed like at that web app and all the things that web app does, because it would just it'd be written in code. So there wouldn't be there wouldn't be like glue which another platform owned connecting it to another product. It would just be code which connected your app to another app, so you'd know if that code failed. Whereas because you're connecting all independent systems together, like if you get an error between like system A and system B, you're probably going to get like either like an error on one side, not an error on the other side, an error on both sides, an error on like multiple sides, or like no errors. So and each platform is different. So finding like a unifying solution is tough. I think it does have to be some form of like independent tool of them all, which is sort of like an uptime monitor for a no-code stack. But I just don't even know how you tackle it. I'm obviously not like an engineer.
So but anyone listening,
a good solution for that.
Yeah, if anyone listening, if that sparked an idea, because I think you definitely articulated the problem and the potential solution like perfectly well. It's the uptime monitor for them, and I guess Zapier kind of does that, but it's like you said, it's horrible. It's just you get an email saying, haha, it failed. And you're like, shit, how? Why? So yeah.
Yeah, what if you haven't checked your email? So if you don't check your email, let's say you're just like on a call, like doing work where like people don't have their email open like all day. No, so if you don't get the email, like you'd either have to set up like text messages and all this sort of stuff, or you have to have like a dedicated person like watching it. There are obviously ways to do it, but at the moment they still feel cumbersome, and just think there needs to be a better solution. Really, long term, there'll be a better solution. Someone's going to build it.
Yeah, I think it will come. It'll definitely come. Someone has to do it. I'm sure you're not the only one with that problem. I'm sure a lot of people are like, "Hey, Zapier, fix this." Someone will come around and be like, "Ha, we'll build a solution." That's the beauty of the
Absolutely.
internet, man. I love it. As soon as there's a problem,
That's
people are
it.
like, "Here's a solution. Pay me for it." Like that's capitalism, and it works really well. I think there's no shame in that. I think it's a really good thing.
I agree.
Cool, man. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get down through the last couple sort of. I guess I want to call them like high level topics with you because I know we don't have too much time. We have about 15, 20-ish minutes.
I'm
And
good for a bit if you are.
yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm good. Because some people have like a hard out, but you let me know if you got to go. If I'm rambling
all
too,
the kids
you
are
just tell me
asleep. This is the golden hour. It's 10:15. The house is peaceful. It's dark outside. I'm in my office. This is golden hour.
Do you get a lot of work done at that time?
Like casual light work, which isn't on like a schedule. So it's basically with my day. As soon as the kids are dropped off at nursery and school at 9 a.m., like I'm on the clock
Right.
until like 9:30. There's just like, imagine there's like a big egg timer in front of you with like sand falling down it, and you just think, oh, for God's sake. So having like having this time where everyone's asleep, but there's not that timer is actually it's just like relaxing. Like I can go to bed late if I want. I can go to bed like early if I want. Just not on the clock.
Right. Yeah, that's perfect. So this is actually a perfect segue because I wanted to get into this. We talked about this before about fatherhood because I am not yet a father. I'm a youngin. How old are you, Tom? I completely forgot.
33.
Okay. So you're almost, but I'm only 26. So this is perfect. I love having these conversations with people kind of like ahead of me, timeline wise and kind of like life in general, because I do want to get into fatherhood. And because right now, a lot of people have been having a tough time with remote work and having the kids at home. And at the beginning of COVID, I'm sure you guys were all inside like most people. So did you have the kids with you at home the entire time?
Yeah.
Or were they still at nursery?
No, so we had the full lockdown where schools and nursery closed for, I think it was 6 months. I think we had them here when it was like early stages, didn't really know anything about it. And I think we were the first ones to take them out of school. So we took them out 3 weeks for anybody else. So early March, I think we took them out. I think everyone was just like, what? I think there was like 10 cases in the UK at that time. And we're like, we took them out. Like, they're coming out. So we had them like early. We did the stint. Obviously, we know a lot more now about like how dangerous it is, etc. So that's okay. They've been back in nursery. But yeah, that first period was rough. We got through. So we got through like the Christmas break with school. They just gone into nursery for, let's say, well, they're in like 5. I think they're in like a few from the new year, and this came. We had them at home, and it's hard because you obviously have obligations with work. You have obligations for like family duties. You have to keep paying the bills. Obviously, you have to like maintain your relationship, which under like a pressure cooker environment is obviously hard. Like at the best of times, you have to look after your mental and physical health. You need to make sure like your family are given enough attention, especially like with 3 young girls. I mean, the girls were not even 3 at the time. So 2 twins who are like 2 and 3/4, like tearing around the house. Like at that age, they can do some serious damage to themselves if they're not watched all the time.
Terrible twos, man. Yeah. Is that a thing? Terrible twos? That's a real thing?
Do you know what? They weren't actually that terrible. I think we were lucky with twins in a way because they just play with each other. So So the good thing is when you have twins, it's hard as fuck. Like when they're like babies, you're like, fuck this. Like you're up, like crazy o'clock. And because, so going back to like the prematurity thing, when you have like premature babies, they are used to not being like held in hospital. So when they're in hospital, they're basically cared for, but then like put down. Whereas
Right.
when you have like a newborn baby, they're just like constantly like mollycoddled and picked up. Whenever they make a noise, obviously pick them up, put them down, pick them up, pick them down. So in a way, when they came out from that, we were lucky in terms that they would sleep all the way through the night. But because one was in hospital for a month, or a couple of months different, she had 2 stints. She had a couple of issues, and they are still like a couple of months apart. So they're not like developmentally going through the same thing at the same time. So one's like tearing around the room at lightning speed, and then the other one's like still like falling over and like whacking into stuff. Fuck. But at least like you can leave them to like play with each other, which is cool. So yeah, juggling that is difficult, but like, you just have to adapt. You have to just like find a way, which is also like a big test of relationships. It's probably like a really bad time to be in like a bad relationship. So it's a good time to be in a good relationship, that's for sure.
And tests the relationship.
It tests the relationship. But yeah, happy to say we got through relatively unscathed. And I think also we're pretty lucky in a way that we've never relied on family for any childcare. So I think it's common for families to like rely on like grandparents for childcare, like X number of times a week, or do like the school run, or just take them off the house. We've always done everything ourselves. So lockdown for us was just, the kids were at home, but it was just like another day in the office.
Right.
So, yeah, hard. But how did you find it?
I mean, it's funny. So I'm not going to try to equate this to having kids, but we had a puppy. Like we got a puppy right before lockdown. And I mean, so I got a taste of like what some people had with kids. I'm like, it's not the same. It's a puppy versus a kid. But with the puppy, it's like, it's going to shit all over the floor if you don't take it out. It's going to pee all over your bed if you don't take it out every single hour.
So there are some similarities.
Exactly. There are some similarities. It's not the same. So, I was lucky enough though that my girlfriend, Marissa, she really took care of the dog. Like she really wanted him. I'm not saying I didn't. I love the guy, but like she realized, she wanted to get this dog. She kind of like manipulated me a little bit to get the dogs. She got it. So I'm like, hey, listen, like it's mainly your responsibility. You can't do that with a kid. You can't give that to your wife or girlfriend. Like that kid's your responsibility. You can't do it. I got lucky with the dog where you can kind of do that. With a kid, this was just like a test for us. This was just like, here's like level 1. Here's a little taste of it if you guys want kids. Because we're thinking about it, right? We've been together for like 6 years now. Now we're starting to think about having kids. So it's like, okay, let's have a little test here. Let's have the dog and then have to deal with like a global pandemic on top of all that. So we had a taste of it.
Still together?
Oh yeah. We're still together. And now we want more. Yeah, now we want more dogs. So like if we want more dogs and kids, yeah, we want dogs. So here's the thing. This is to bring it all back. I mentioned it before. So Long Boy is a brand that we built because of our love for these wiener dogs, man. Like we got a wiener dog, Tino, and we just became obsessed with him. We love him so much. Tino, the teeny weenie. Follow him on Instagram. You will not regret it.
Solid.
Yeah. And so from that, like we found this whole community of like these Dachshund owners, the wiener dog owners and the lovers. So we became obsessed with them. Like, hey, I understand why people are obsessed with this breed. It's just like a very specific breed. If the short little legs, the long body, they're cute, man. So we built a whole brand around it. Like I designed clothing that's sort of like, I don't know if you've seen it in England, but in Canada we have Roots, which is like a really big brand here. It's like you'll see basically what it is a beaver, like a logo of a beaver. It's got a little crest. Or if you think, I'm sure you've heard of like American Eagle or like Hollister, these kind of things. You get the little crest, or like Polo, I'm sure is huge for you guys there. So I wanted to do something like that, but have a wiener dog instead. So we started building this clothes, and we built a Shopify site out of it because we love the breed so much. So we're like, okay, we need to get more of these dogs. I just want to have like 5 of them running around. They're so cute. So I think eventually we're just going to have just so many dogs running around and with all the kids. So
yeah, right.
That was my. Also, was that?
Yeah. So I was one thing I forgot to like mention is I think people will look back at the time that they got to spend with their kids, like that one-on-one time for like an extended period of time, with like as like a real positive, because This
Mhm.
when children start school and subsequently college or university or nursery, once they hit a certain age, like they're gone for like a large percentage of the time, and you miss like you see them like developmentally in chunks. So it's actually really, really nice. And I'll always look back at it like really fondly of just spending that like one-on-one time, or one on the rest of the females in my family, all girls, time just like just getting through. And there's a theme that goes through which I subscribe to, that collective suffering or collective struggle in anything, be it family, friendship, or personal pursuits, is one of the things that cements relationships like nothing else. So I'll put it down to that there's not going to be many things that are harder than being isolated with 3 kids for 6 months during a pandemic and trying to survive. Also, one of the things that I'm very thankful for is my job at Makerpad and the flexibility that brings, both with remote working and Ben's like flexibility to be like understanding of the times where I may just be like not in my computer. You just be like on Slack, like, hello? And then I'll come back like, sorry, this happened, and this happened. He's like, okay, sounds like hell. That's cool. Because yeah, like you, hasn't got kids, has a dog, now realizes now having a dog realizes now what the kids would be like.
It's a taste. And so he's like, it's like, you could imagine it's like this and times 10. And then for you, it's like times 30. Like it's
Yeah.
man, hats off to you for going through. A lot of people went through it. So did you find any like tools or tips that you found that like kind of just worked really well? I mean, obviously having the team just kind of being, understanding, but did you do anything, or did you change your schedule around, or is there anything you changed to kind of make it all work and really cement that? Because obviously it sounds like you just like really went in for it and really built up the relationship with the family, which you kind of have to, right? You can't just leave it off to the side. You have to like really dig deep into it and, actually come out of it stronger. And it seems like you did. So do you have any like tools or like tips for that? I mean, hopefully we don't have to be in the lockdown pandemic again, but it's the kind of like the most extreme version of what could happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I think flexibility was great. And probably the way I dealt with it was just like working in like batches. So there'd be just like getting up in the morning, like I wasn't starting work as early in the morning. So it would be a case of like getting up with the kids, like getting them all sorted, getting like the house to like a nice spot. Like if it was messy, just making sure that there wasn't going to be anything that like my fiance Nat would be just like pissed from like the start. Like happy wife, happy life. Like she's not my wife yet, but soon to be, hopefully. So it was a case of let's just make everything okay at the start of the day. Like, is everyone fine? Let's get everyone fed. Let's get everyone like watered. Like, let's get clothes on. Let's like make sure the house isn't a shithole. Like, everyone's good. Okay, I'm going to go work for a few hours and I'll be down at 1 o'clock for lunch. And then I'd be like down at 1 o'clock for lunch. Maybe like have a couple of hours, like go out for a walk, come back, and goes, right, I'm going to work. I'll be down in a bit, rather than saying like 9 a.m., got to go to work. I've got this book first thing. So it's a case of like shifting appointments to like later on in the day when they're maybe like after lunch before hell breaks loose at like 7 o'clock. So there was, flexibility of work, and also just trying to communicate with when things get bad, like straight away. Initially, that was something which I was bad at, like hands up, I wasn't good at just saying, because something could erupt downstairs and I'd just be like, okay. And then you'd be like, oh, like, damn, I was like in the middle of something and didn't let somebody know. So having to get better at just keeping people in the loop of what the hell's going on was a challenge. But yeah, I think we got there in the end. But yeah, flexibility is key. Also, just like pay attention to like your mental health And if you're just waking up like in like whatever state you're in, like I'm a big running fan, so just making sure that I'm getting out for that run if I needed one. If I didn't need one and the family needed some more time, then like just skip it.
Again, the
So I think
flexibility.
just, like,
Yeah.
just flexibility and just going with the flow. Like obviously having like a flexible job is going to help a lot with that, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't do. So, but yeah, just trying to build that into your routine somehow, I think was a savior.
Yeah. Do you have like a routine? Like, do you have like a schedule that you set? Like mine is religious. Like I almost have like a military schedule right now, and I'm flexible enough into it. But I know every single day I have like chunks of time, like before breakfast or whatever. I don't really eat breakfast. I eat at noon. I do like an intermittent fast. So I know I have this huge chunk of time. So I kind of chunk, same way you kind of alluded to. It's just like you chunk it up. You know, it's like before lunch, after lunch, and then like after dinner. You have like these 3 chunks in the day. But mine's like religious, man. Like if everything's in my calendar, also because I use Calendly, right? So I'm like, I make sure if I'm doing stuff, I have like every little minute, every hour just like booked in there so no one can book that time.
Gotcha.
So I'm like until 10 a.m., I'm like, I want no one to be able to book any time. Like, because people will do random calls, podcasts, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's like a military schedule. So do you have anything like that? Like, did you set that up for you, or you're just like, okay, I'm going to be flexible now because like, you know, you got to change now with the needs of the family?
Yeah, so I think rough work schedule, like now things are a bit normalized. I think during like first stage of lockdown, where it was just utter chaos, it was just no schedule. There was like some safe times which I know I could like book stuff in to do, like deep work sessions or calls or tutorials or workshops, etc. There's a few of those. Now it is on the work side, nothing Monday AM. We have our first like team call for work at 4:00. Then, so just check-ins, catching up Monday morning. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is like busy time. So it's after the school run, probably start work around like 9:30. Try and get a run in before that. Then, yeah, those are when all the one-to-ones, the calls, the meetings, like the deep work sessions, the workshops happen on those weekdays. And then Friday is nothing gets booked on a Friday. Nothing can be put in anyone's calendar on a Friday. That is like an empty day for like anything work-wise. It could be catch up. It's like a free day. You can take it off if you want like a long weekend. So that day is like religiously free.
I love that. That's a great idea. I love asking people how they set up their schedules or how like teams do it, because you always find little things like that. I think the Monday morning meetings are pretty widely available right now. Everyone kind of does it. Like, hey, let's reset for the week. Here's what we're gonna do for the week. We're gonna do weekly sprints and whatnot. But I love the idea of Friday kind of being off, and optionally you can either catch up or just take the day off, which is great because sometimes you just want to be creative. Sometimes I don't know about you, but especially in the gear, as a gearhead myself too, I like to have like playtime, I call it. So it's like, you know, trying out new setups for the podcast, or new setups for like video, or like trying out new software and new workflow.
You're a big VR fan, aren't you?
VR fan, man. I got the Quest 2 right here. So yes. Man, I highly recommend this. This thing has been awesome also for the whole quarantine thing. It just kind of made me realize like what the future of work really is, right? I've had times where I was like meeting up with friends in here, or we're having like small team meetings. I run a VR company as well. So it makes sense. Everyone had one of these. We'd jump in and you'd feel like you're in the office together still, which was amazing. Have you tried VR? Cool. Have you tried any kind of Oculus headset?
I have, but my gadget budget has currently been put on hold. We've just bought a house, which is going to take a considerable amount of money to get to a good spot. Yeah, but it's a good investment. So gadgets are currently on hold.
Yes.
I'm looking through my timeline at the Oculus Quest 2 and the PS5 with envy and drool at the moment.
Yeah, man. But you have a PC, right? Is it a gaming PC? Like, is it like pretty good enough to do like some crazy gaming stuff?
Not crazy gaming. It's a gaming PC. I run a couple of screens. I use my MacBook Pro mostly for like everyday stuff. But yeah, if I want to do a bit of gaming. It's on there. I usually play like a bit of Call of Duty with my brother, and friends, just like socially, like it's just fun. Um, used to be a big like Warcraft fan, World of Warcraft. Used to love that. Used to love League of Legends. Yeah, good times.
That's awesome. Well, I was going to say, I have a PC as well. I mean, that's kind of like, I have to do it in the VR world. Like you need to have like a Windows PC to develop VR stuff. So I found this is like, the PS5 looks cool and there's some pretty cool exclusives, but like I could wait a couple years. I can wait for them to do, first of all, a slim version. It could definitely be a little bit smaller. So I'm like, you know what? For a lot of these people who are like kind of considering the PS5 or they're juggling like, oh, I kind of want to try this Oculus thing or there's this PS5. I'm like, hey, listen, if you have a PS4, you can still get the games for the next couple of years. And if you have a PC, you'll be able to get some like really good gaming experiences. So get an Oculus headset if you're going to do that. That's always my recommendation. Man, it's amazing, especially like staying active. Like, I mean, obviously, like, luckily it was summertime when we were all in lockdown. So I was able to go out for runs, go to the gym. We had an outdoor gym, thank God, that was still open in our neighborhood. But for this thing, like, there's some apps. There's one in particular. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it's called Superhuman. Look it up after. It's called Superhuman. And what it is, it's like, you have like one-on-one like training sessions with like professional trainers from around the world. And they put you in these beautiful environments. Like you can be on like this mountaintop and then they get you to do like really active experiences. It's kind of like Beat Saber if you've seen it, but you basically like these like little circles will start coming at you and have to like, you know, move and get into that circle, do like squats and stuff. But if you have like a weighted vest, it is like a workout. It is a straight up, you're going to be sweating. You're going to be panting. Like it's amazing. So like, it's not just like you're sitting on the couch, like gaming, right? So I think,
do you have a whoop or anything that you could wear during that?
Yeah, I probably should, right? Yeah.
That'd be hilarious. I'd love to see it.
Whoops. Yeah, no, but it's man, this thing is awesome. So I do recommend I just smashed my PC on here. But yeah, I do recommend the Oculus for that. And for playtime, yeah, man, like you know, like you said, protecting your mental health. You know, if you have like an hour in VR, it's like the most therapeutic thing you could ever do. Like it's so much fun.
Really?
You just lose yourself. Yeah. I think like the biggest use case for VR will be in therapy. It'll be like education, gaming, obviously, and like therapy. It's huge.
I like it. What's the difference? Here's a question for you. What's the difference between the new one and the first version
of the Quest?
Yeah.
Oh, so from what I understand, I mean, first of all, when I first I have them both. Obviously, I have like every fucking. I have to. You know, running a VR company, you kind of have to like actually get the new headset every time because you're developing for the next new platform. But when I got this, the difference between the first one and this one, I will put it in the most simple terms ever. When you're using the first Oculus Quest, you kind of feel like as if you're slightly blind. Like how you would imagine someone who needs glasses takes off their glasses. That's what it feels like. It's a little bit blurry. When you put this thing on, it feels like you just got your glasses back and now you can see clearly. It's the most clear like VR headset I've ever used. Like there's no, they call screen door effect. Like you can't see the little pixels. Think about it. You have a screen basically attached to your eyeballs. And if it's that close, usually you would be able to see each individual pixel of that screen. With this one, you cannot. Like it is incredibly just clear. And it's about like, I would say half the, maybe not half, but it's like 30% lighter, which is a big deal when you're wearing something on your face and trying to move. And it's like twice as powerful. It's fucking awesome. So it was worth the upgrade. And again, like I had the old one. I'm like, yeah, this is worth the upgrade, you know? So yeah, that's kind of the main difference. You know your
stuff as well. So if you're recommending it, then it's legit.
Oh yeah, no. If I would recommend a headset, it would definitely be this. Because you also don't need the PC, right? You don't need to plug it in anything. It's just kind of its own little thing. I like to call it, so look at the Nokia maybe of headsets. Not quite the iPhone. I don't think we have the iPhone just yet, but it's like a really good Nokia when Nokia was taking off. Or like BlackBerry. Did you ever have a BlackBerry?
You try to compare the Oculus Rift 2 to Nokia 3210.
Basically, yeah. That's kind of what it is, yeah. I mean, when we look back at it... Product
designers are just shaking their head in shame right now.
They're like, fuck you, man. It's kind of like, you remember the best flip phone? Remember the best flip phone ever? But it's not, what I was trying to say is we're not at the iPhone just yet. I wanted to think that we were, but we're not. We're not yet. So if people are like, you know, they're expecting like the craziest experience, I don't think we're there just yet. But it's good. Like, it's really good. And like I said, man, I think there's a lot of opportunity for like people developing for this thing. Like you know, there's only a few million people maybe with headsets, which is like not a lot of people, right? I think it's just like it's growing as fast as the no code community is. Like the way I've been seeing it, like 2017 is like sort of when VR popped off. And that was around the same time that I noticed no code sort of popping off. And I've been seeing them kind of come in tandem. And there's actually a really cool tool called Headjack that I built a couple projects with. Check it out after. It's called headjack.io, but they market themselves as the WordPress for VR, which is kind of cool. So you can build like VR apps without any code, and you can, add your content and publish content on it. Headjack.io. It's kind of like the WordPress for VR. It's awesome. And the other really cool thing is you can actually export the code, not just for headsets, but also like Google Cardboard. So you've probably seen those apps for your phone, Android and iOS. You can actually export your own Google Cardboard app from there as well without any code. So there you go. Let's bring together the no code and VR community. That's it. That's perfect.
There you go. All for it. Let's do it.
That's cool, man.
Cool. So I guess to the top of my gadget list, I think.
Yeah, you should, man. Do it so we can meet up in VR. We'll do some VR social experiences. There's so many good ones. Like it's amazing. Like, when was the last time you went to like just a buddy's house and just kind of like sat down and like watched the game or like watched TV with them?
I have absolutely no idea. Well, so like a buddy's house, I think it would be
like a friend, yeah.
Like family, like brother and mum and dad, and but apart from that, like a year ago. Yeah,
like it's crazy, right? And like, what do you do like nowadays? Like when you go hang out with friends, everyone kind of does the same sort of thing nowadays, unless it's like a crazy party. But you kind of you have a drink with you. You might play some games, and you have like something on TV, right? Maybe YouTube. Like, hey, check out this YouTube video, and they post it on. So there's this app that I was using to hang out even with friends and colleagues called Big Screen, where it mimics that. It's like you put on this headset and you open up your room, and you can change it however you want. Like I have like this massive like home theater. Like I'm talking like you have like a 200-foot screen in front of you in a movie theater. You can invite your friends over. So I had like 4 or 5 of them. It feels like you're in the same room together. And then I can connect YouTube onto the TV. And then anyone else who wants to put something on, they can connect their screen to it. And it was like the perfect like mimic, because it's not the same thing as physically being with your friends, but it was like the next best thing to being with your friends and just like watching TV, chatting, playing games. And it was amazing. I'm like, I haven't even done this in same thing as you, like in like a year. And then we finally just did it in VR. Like, hey, why not? We all have headsets. Why aren't we doing this? This is what VR was made for. And you can just like sit and watch movies with your friends from a distance. It's unbelievable. It's really, really cool.
How far away are we from Ready Player One?
You know what? Probably not as far as we think, because like Facebook is launching Horizon soon, which is like basically Ready Player One. And they have a no-code tool in it, so you can build VR games within Horizon without knowing how to code, just like putting like little pieces together same way you would kind of like set up like Zapier automations or something. You kind of take little like building blocks, you can make games. So There's a lot of fun stuff, and I'm seeing it converge because like most people who are developing for VR, they had to code, right? They're using like Unity video game engines. But now you can kind of just go into Horizon, which is sort of like a Ready Player One thing, and you can like build your own experiences. So we're getting there, man. We're on the verge.
They've got like build box as well, like obviously non-VR, but that's sort of like bridging the gap as well. Yeah,
it's very similar to Buildbox. Very, very similar. Just like in VR and like moving these little things. Cool, so we're getting there, man. Yeah, it's really cool. Okay, so
I'll make sure I ping you as soon as I have one.
Oh, do it, man. And then add me and we will meet up in VR. Because like really, I mean, I'm not going to say it's not that expensive, because for some people it is. And also you're buying a house, which is like probably the most expensive thing you will buy in your lifetime, other than like maybe you make it big and you buy like a Tesla fucking Roadster 2.0 or something. I don't know. But the house is pretty fucking expensive.
Yeah, the house is pretty expensive.
But, considering the headset is like less than 500 Canadian dollars, I'm like, holy shit, man. I remember spending thousands on these things. So everything's getting cheaper, right? It's like, even the laptops and stuff are getting so much cheaper. You can it's like kind of like the price of like a Chromebook or something. It's not that expensive at the end of the day. It's still a chunk of change, but it's less money than your microphone there. I can tell you that.
True. True.
Yeah. But you have to make sure you're going to get the same amount of utility out of it, right? So I think just like we're talking about software tools, when it comes down to hardware, you have to figure out if you're actually going to get the utility out of it, right? Because how many people you think this year bought that microphone and didn't even use it? You know, wannabe YouTubers.
I think a lot. I think I use this probably like for a few hours every single day.
Yeah.
So like the cost per minute is pretty cheap.
That's how
pretty same as you.
Yeah, totally. And I'm trying to get the new iPhone too, and I'm like, it's like I want to buy it outright, but it's like $1,500. I'm like, okay, that's like 3 of those headsets. So like, if you're going to compare it, like it's 3 of those, man. So I'm like, okay, it's $1,500, but you use your iPhone how many times a day? The cost per minute is like what, a few cents if you're going to use it for a couple of years. So it's worth it.
That's sure. How I justify it. That's how I justify new running clothes as well.
Oh yeah,
running trainers.
For sure. Well, I'm sure you go through shoes like no tomorrow. You probably go through like so many shoes just like running outside.
Yeah, I think the last ones that fell apart, I think did like 650 miles before I stopped wearing them. I think, but they're good shoes, really good.
What were they?
Really good running shoes. Salomon Ultra Pros. And yeah, just like really hard wearing, like usually like road shoes will like wear down in like 200 miles, I think, and they advise you to get a new pair. It's like
how do you track it? Do you have like an app that you've actually known, like, hey, I bought these shoes at like mile 1, and then you track it to see how many miles you get out of it? No way.
Yeah,
really.
There's like cool. A saying in like the running community: if it's not on Strava, then it didn't happen. Like the worst feeling is going like this is I don't know if it's probably a pretty sad thing with like technology, because I think anyone like before Strava existed be like, just go out for a run. It doesn't matter like how far you ran or how quick you ran or where you did. But now it's like, I need the data. Like I want to see my run. I want like a record of it. How fast did I run? How far did I go? Who did I run with? So it's just there if I want to look back at it. So yeah, it's all on Strava. When you get a new pair of trainers, like, add it to your gear. You just say like which trainer was I running in, and then it tots up your miles for you.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, Strava's been crazy. I haven't really used it that much this year, but my girlfriend's father is like a competitive cyclist. Like he does like street bike. Like this guy travels to Italy, used to multiple times a year to like do.
Oh, so he's a serious cyclist.
Dude, like serious, like so
does he
serious.
Do the Giro?
Yes, that's what he does. Yeah, 100%.
Giro d'Italia.
Yes, that's exactly what he does. He's insane. Like it's he could be he could do it competitively, but he's just part of like a team. It's technically competitive,
like
but he's not.
Team. Yeah,
an amateur team. Yeah, for it's like crazy. Club, yeah. So he's hardcore with that. So I've been seeing Strava through that. But this is great because I don't want to take too much more time, but I definitely want to get into the ultra running because I'm so fascinated by that. Just because it's such a hardcore community. Like you said, like if you're doing it, you're going to be tracking it. You're going to make sure you have like all the data. Like I don't know that many. I mean, other than the hardcore cyclists, people who actually do that. Like I work out 3 to 5 times a week, but I don't do any like crazy running. Like if I do run, it's like for like, I don't know, I'll top out at like maybe an hour. So like when you're doing these runs, you're going at
an hour run is a solid run.
Yeah, it's solid, but I can't say it's an hour straight. Let's just put it that way.
I think like running's like hard until it's not.
Literally, so, yeah, man.
That's like a really weird thing to say. Like I completely understand. So the reason I got like into running, I think like I always hated it. So back even like football days from like 16, I'd like short sprints, but like long distance running, I was like, this just like sucks a bag of dicks. Like seriously, like just running around the field, like followed by a bleep test. There's like so many things I'd rather do than that. And I think how I got into it was down to like a certain Mr. Goggins. I think when Goggins came on the scene, I think I listened to his book, listened to his audiobook.
You Can't Hurt Me or whatever.
Yeah,
Is
it
that the
kind of
one?
hurt me. And
Can't.
I was just like, I was fascinated by his story. And I'm sure I know this is the case for so many people who got into running after that, because it's just the case. Yeah. Like we said about like struggle, like running was the thing that I hated the most at the time when I listened to the book. So I think I finished the book and I was sat here in my office now, like everybody was asleep. And I just thought, fuck, I am so soft. Like, look at my like soft keyboard hands. Like, I haven't exercised in anger since I stopped playing football. I'm comfortable. Like, I'm a dad of 3 kids. Like, I'm in like, I can't put on weight. I've like never been like overweight, but I'm not like an athlete anymore. So I just had this real like self-critical moment thinking, just a bit of a pussy, aren't you? Just like I was just on my own, like we are now. I think I had a couple of ciders, or like had a drink, or like a glass of wine. I can't remember what it was. I just thought, do you know what? Fuck it, let's book something. So when,
That's
but and I
crazy.
just had it in my head.
That's awesome.
I'm just like, right, I'm just going to book an ultramarathon, and it's going to be a hard one. I'm going to book it far enough in advance. I think it was October. I think I booked it one last year before last October. So I did it last July. So the October before last July, I just thought, right, it's going to be 100K, 100 kilometers. I'm just going to book it. So I just booked it. I was definitely drunk. Booked it. I shared it publicly that I was going to raise money for Alder Hey Children's Hospital, who they looked after the twins, or looked after one of the twins, Matilda, when she got like critically ill. They saved her life. So I thought, right, I'm going to raise money for Alder Hey. So I booked it, shared it publicly. So I was pot committed. I'm going to raise money for Alder Hey. I'm going to run this next July. And before that point, I'd never run like a half marathon or a marathon. So I just thought I'm going to book it, and then I'm going to train for it. And obviously the runs would be in the lead up to that. So that month, it was the thing I hated most. So I thought that should be the thing I should do. Throughout October, I ran for the first 30 days after doing it. I said, I'm just going to run every day. It doesn't matter how far, how slow, how fast. I'm just going to get a run in every day. First one was like a mile. Second one was like a mile and a half. Third one was like 3 miles. Next one was a mile. Next one was however. So the distances were crazy. Some of them were just like out and back down the road at like 10 at night when everyone was asleep. Like, it sucked. But by the end of that 30 days, I was like hooked. I was like, these runs are getting easier. I know the pace. I'm not like gassed. My body's feeling fit. I think I'd given up alcohol that year as well. So I was feeling pretty good. And then, yeah, like, fast forward, then came the half marathon. That was a big like point, thinking like I can do this running thing. Then had the marathon. And then, yeah, in July, got to my first like ultra, which was the 100K, 62 miles.
That's awesome. And you completed it. You did the 100K.
Did the
Dude, that's
100K,
awesome. And how long was it? How many months were you training?
I think I trained, I'd say 6 months from like 0 to that, I think.
So that's the safe bet. At least you need at least like half a year to like train for that thing.
Yeah, maybe if you're in like okay shape to start with, and but yeah, I think there was somebody who did it at the same time who'd never run like 13 miles before the ultra, and he got around.
No
I think
way.
Yeah, there's a couple of things when it comes to it. Like, one, you've got to be stupid enough to try.
That's true.
2, it's at least 75% mental.
I do hear that, yeah. Especially from Goggins, right? It's like when you think you're at 100%, you're at like 60%. Keep going.
Yeah, I think he said it's like 40%. But
yeah, you might be right. I think it is.
And it's interesting, right? So you're going to be out there. I think I was out there for 16. It took me 16 and a half hours to run it. And you go into it knowing that it's going to suck. And it's like, there's no way you're getting through it like without pain or like uninjured at some point, you're gonna get dehydrated at some point. Like chances are, over 6.5 hours, you just forget to take fluids in at some point. You're gonna feel sick. You're not gonna eat enough because you can't, unless you're eating constantly. There's going to be points where you're calorie depleted and you need to force food down you when you don't want to eat. You're going to be alone for hours and hours at a time. Like I entered it solo, I wasn't running it with anybody. There's even that factor alone, being inside your own head on your own for, let's say, 10 hours. Like when do you ever do that in modern times? And you go through every single thought, every single relationship like every single relationship you have with friends, with family, the things that you do and don't need, what you're doing with your life, your job, like what makes you happy, what makes you sad, like, ouch, this hurts, I feel sick, it's dark, where's my head torch? So someone compares it to going through life in a day, because you condense all of these thoughts that you would have usually spread out over different social occasions. So when you, let's say, meet your mum, you have things about, you say, oh, I miss mum, this is good to have a catch up to. And you see your dad, and then you have your dad chat, and then you see your brothers, and you're like, oh, good to see you. That because you're on your own, like just with your feet and a direction that you're going and your mind, and just like a finish line, which could be 10, 12, 14, however many hours away, you've got like no choice but just to process these thoughts. And that's what you do. And if you get through it, you just end a completely different person. And you hear that as like a cliche, but it's 100% the truth.
Yeah, most cliches are truth, right? If you keep hearing it over and over again, that is exactly what I hear every time. I had a friend of mine who was like, he just got like crazy into running. Like he wasn't even running marathons. What he did this challenge where the first day of the month he did 1 kilometer.
Second the calendar club.
The calendar club. That's the one. Have you done it?
Is it Jesse Itzler was doing it? I think he did.
Yes, he was following Jesse Itzler. Exactly. And by the end of it, he said he did the equivalent of like 11 marathons in the 1 month or whatever it was, like 11 or 13 marathons. And it's like, I was just like, why? Because like my mind doesn't go to like, you know, like all these things you said, like you can actually like level up. You can become a different person and you can process all these things. I'm just like, oh, it hurts and whatever. But like you said, man, like we're like soft. We're soft human beings. We're inside all the time. We're just like typing on a keyboard. We're not doing anything hard. Like recently I just started getting into like lifting weights and stuff. That's like my hands are so fucking calloused from that. So at least I have a little bit of hardness. But when it comes to running, I am a little bitch. So I think I need to try them. I think you like kind of unlock something into me just to try it, because I think that's like one of the most things that I hate the most. So I think like you, it's like do the thing that you hate the most, get super uncomfortable, break through that. So man, I think you just convinced me.
Like what comes with it as well. So let's say you get to, as an example, so the race in running, the race is the reward, the training is the hard part. So running the 100K for me was really the easy part. It was the 6 months and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles that were the hard part. Because let's say you're on a training program and it gets to 3 weeks before your race and you have a 26-mile run to do in the morning, because this is your long run. You have to do your long runs in training. So if you're going to miss your entire week's worth of training, you can't miss your long run, because that's where you get your long, steady, slow endurance run in. And that's like your ultra pace. You're going to have to hold that for, let's say, 16 hours. So you can't miss your long run. 3 weeks before the race, look outside and it's 4:30 a.m. because you have to get your long run in before the family wakes up, because you're going to be out for 5-6 hours. So if you leave at 10 o'clock, you're going to be back in the afternoon. You miss the family. Yeah. Just be like, nah, be like, absolutely not. We're going to do stuff for the family today. So I'm like, okay, is it all right if I home by 10? She's like, yeah, okay. If you home by 10, that's fine with me. Okay, cool, fine. Bearing in mind, you're doing all these runs in the week as well. So there's family compromise and balancing kids and attention, all this. So 4 a.m., it's pitch black, put in your running gear. I'm sleeping on the sofa because you don't wake anybody else up in the house. You get some calories in. head torch on, gloves, hat. It's hammering it down with rain, like a storm. Just got to get out of the door. It fucking sucks. Just get out the door, run, lap the reservoir until you've done 26 miles.
You just got to do it. Got to get the reps in.
That's the hardest part. Yeah. It sucks.
Well, of course,
There's no way around
the times where you don't want to do it, you're like, there's no goddamn way. But you just have to like literally pick, like the way I always see it, even when I got to wake up for whatever, anything early, I suck at it. You know, if we're going to the gym, I always see it as like, you know, you're almost like a puppeteer to like your character. Like this is like your little game character. Like we're in a virtual reality already, right? We're already in our 3D virtual reality. Sometimes you need to literally just pick up your character, be like, we're getting the fuck out of bed. We're getting out. You have to like literally pick yourself up and throw yourself out of the door. It's hardcore, man. I'm going to try that. I kind of want to try that now. But it's approaching winter here, so I could either like kill myself and actually do this through the winter and just like really give myself a hard time, or wait till spring. I don't know. You're kind of convincing me to do the hardest. Exactly. You're convincing me to the hardest
and
part.
There's also something like, I don't know, it's always a bit like masochistic, but if you get out and you know everybody else is asleep. So like recently I haven't been good in my runs, like been like prioritizing everything else. So, but when you do get yourself out early when everyone else is asleep and it's raining, like once you're out the door, it's like, there's not many other people doing this. Like, yeah, there's a few, obviously there's levels to it. So there's always the people. So I'm a member of a running club around here, and like, I am like an amateur runner compared to like most of the guys in the running club. Like there's just animals. So it's my friend called Johnny, who I followed his routes on Strava when I first moved to the area just to find the way around the hills, and then we ended up being friends. He runs ultras for fun. He's up at 4 every single morning, like lifting weights out in the hills, running every day. So yeah, there's levels to it, but if you're out and you can get up early and you can do the things that people aren't doing, there's some like weird sort of like internal satisfaction to it. Or it's like a bit of not like smugness, but it makes you feel good.
No, totally. Anytime I'm awake, anytime before like 6 or whenever, like it's still dark out and I don't see anyone else out. You don't see, like I'm in a condo in Toronto, so you don't see any other lights on. You're like, haha, like, I'm getting ahead. There's always that feeling like you're getting like that smugness of getting ahead, almost like there's levels to it, but like at least I'm a couple levels ahead right now. So I totally understand.
And you can always get pegged back by opening Strava where you think you've had a good run. You're like, Johnny just did 30 miles. Like,
and that's just guys in your small village, right? It's like a small like
I'm still a pussy.
That's crazy. So how did you meet them? Like, did you meet them through Strava? Like, did you find them on the app?
So when I first moved here, like this was the early running stage. So I was like in training and like for the 100, then I just needed to get fit enough. I followed them on Strava, see what runs they were doing. And like the club run on like a Tuesday night was like 8 miles and 2,000 foot of climb, like in the hills at night. I was like, okay, I am not ready for that. So I was like, okay, can't join yet. Have to fit in the training and then join the club run. So eventually got up, joined the club, like met everybody. I was like, I recognize that guy from Strava. Like just like thinking of these epic people who you like been looking up to like through your phone, because if you're training for something like that, you're trying to like emulate people and you see people doing it. It's like, right, this guy's doing it. And now like me and Johnny, we haven't run one together yet, but we're planning to, which would be cool. But yeah, we're covering like similar sort of distances. So yeah, then joined the running club, told everyone what I was doing. And then was like, what have you done so far? And like, nothing. So they just must have thought like, who's this idiot? But yeah, over time, you just get a little bit better.
Well, it's a great way to find community too, right? Like physical community around your area. And I think that's why like my girlfriend's dad, he does so much cycling, right? Like they have like such a tight knit group of friends. They always go riding together. And I'm sure it's the same with running when you're in a group run. And I think there's something about it when you're in a group, you keep up with them. You kind of like, they bring you up to their level, but yeah, you're kind of like forced to go on to their level, right? You got to keep up with them. You got to keep running. Otherwise like you're left behind, and psychologically even you're not going to allow that to happen. So you kind of
absolutely
level up.
And it's the back again to the collective suffering. Like when you're, let's say you're on like a 20-mile run, like 20-mile loop, once you're 10 miles in, like there's no like turning around and just like nipping home. Like you're 10 miles from home, whether you turn around or not. So if there's like a group of 5 of you and it's like hammering down with rain and you're running across, we have it like moorland, which is like on the top of the moors. It's like peat and it's boggy and you're on like slippery slabs and it's hammering down with rain and you got your jacket on. Like that sucks. I'm like, yeah, it sucks, but like it sucks for everybody. Like everybody's probably like hurting. And you just get through it. And you're closer and you're closer as friends after you do something like that.
Yeah, that's so true. I love those kind of experiences. That's same with like, startup founders, when you have like co-founders, when you're in a relationship, when you're getting married or you are married, all these things. So man, that's like one of the key points of this whole conversation is collective suffering. So that might be some clickbaity titles for this podcast now.
There you go. Whether it's being locked in your house with family members, just battling through a lockdown, or going on like a long run with friends.
You're just both different types of collective suffering. Well, that's honestly a perfect way to end. I could not find a better place to end. That is amazing. So before we get going, Tom, I do want to ask you a few like kind of ending questions. I always love to ask these sort of final questions to kind of wrap everything up, and then we can kind of get a better understanding from kind of everything we're chatting about. So based on it, man, we talked about so much here. We talked about like obviously no code. We talked about like fatherhood and ultra running. So out of all these things that you kind of have on your life, because I feel like everyone is sort of like these multifaceted humans. I never see any human as just like one thing. Like people could see you maybe even on Twitter, like, hey, he's the no code guy. It's like, yeah, but he also does like ultra running. Like he does all these other things. And your father, like you have all these, like everyone's multidimensional. So that's kind of like a big part of this podcast. That's why I called it Mind Meld. There's kind of like everything. People are so many different things. So one of these last kind of questions I want, based on all these things that I want you to answer, is sort of like, what are some challenges that you're facing and what are you most excited about and looking forward to?
I think one of the challenges that I face personally, just from my like personality, is always having like a goal and like a plan to like execute on that goal and be able to like form some sort of routine around it. So what's been like just a like consistent challenge like recently with the like a second round of lockdowns, being it from everything opened back up, so like the gym opened back up, the kids were like back in nursery. We've just gone through this big like long period of like suffering and like hardship and just like getting through together, not even like together, all with like friends, family, like extended family, parents, brothers and sisters. So you've all got this through together and everybody's kind of got out and everyone's like back into this like routine and like they're looking after themselves, like they're in the gym, and then you're like back into a lockdown just thinking, fuck, like everything's back out the window. So all the work routine back out the window, like the school like routine, like the house and all this, it's just out of the window. Like the gyms are closed. You're not going to the gym like 3 or 4 times a week, which also means less running because everyone's home and there's more like collective stress. And having that and then like having to like adapt back to that has just been, I think, the biggest challenge like this time round, I think. And I think the thing I'm most excited for is to, I think, achieve like, I don't know, I think just get back to that place. So I've got a few plans. I'm doing like an adventure race with my brother. We booked one for like next September. I've got one brother who, they're twin brothers actually. I think actually get this. This is an interesting fact. My twin daughters were born on the same day as my twin brothers.
No way. That's and you said they were also born prematurely.
So
man, some kind of universal energy was trying to make that happen, man. That's crazy.
My brother's Ben and Toby. Ben's in this country. Toby's in Melbourne. Emigrated there just before the lockdown, and then went into the strictest lockdown in the world. So nailed it. But now they're back open. He's an incredible runner, by the way. He runs like an antelope. He's so fast and just built. He's an absolute machine.
That's wild.
So he started running recently as well. So that's good. But yeah, they were born on the same day as my twins were born when they're born prematurely. So they came early, and they're like, hang on, like this is Ben and Toby's birthday.
That's wild. That's a really
mental. Yeah. So doing, so unfortunately you won't be able to see Toby, but me and Ben have booked an adventure race for next September, which is like 100 something mile race, coast to coast Scotland. So it's like a trail run, mountain climb, trail run up a mountain, a kayak across like a lock, and then like a bike, a mountain bike, a run, a kayak. So we're doing that, which is like something which I've got, which is like really looking forward to, which means training, it means like getting fit, like biking, running, weights, that sort of thing, which is good. I've got a plan. Next goal is to do a 100 miler. So that's my next like running goal, which is good. So yeah, just looking forward to everything, like getting to a point where like there's some normality returning to people's lives.
And it forces like a routine because you have to train for those things. But that sounds like a lot of fun. I've never heard of what do you call it? An adventure.
Yeah, they call it adventure racing. So it's new to us. So be stepping out of like just running. Yeah, they're really good. Like multidiscipline stuff. Obviously,
that's really cool.
It's in Scotland in the winter, so like chances are it's going to suck.
Yeah, but there you go. You got something to look forward to. That's going to suck, and it's going to level you up at the end of it, man. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's it. But I think just to answer your question about being like excited about stuff on like the work front, like really excited about like the no code space in general and how it's like empowering like sovereign like creators and makers who can now like build really meaningful communities, products, and an income with a minimal amount of upfront investment. I think that's what it comes down to. You don't need a large pile of cash to be able to do these things anymore, whereas previously you had. So me just like sharing the tidbits of knowledge that I know, like I don't even know the most among like people on Twitter, people who are way better at this stuff than me, both on like building knowledge, all this sort of stuff, just seeing what people build and like how much value that brings to their lives and how much value they end up bringing to other people is just incredible.
It really is, man. I'm super excited for that. And do you have any resources that you can kind of point people towards who are kind of interested in this stuff?
I think probably Makerpad would be the best place to start. I think just to get like an overview of everything from obviously like podcasts, workshops, tutorials, info. But I think just Googling like building software without code, no code, just bring up so many good resources. There's some incredible people making YouTube videos all over the world. There's some great lists of tools out there. There's just no code Twitter's obviously incredible. So if you just go to Twitter, search hashtag no code, you can like dive headfirst into the space and get to know everybody. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, man, I totally agree. Yeah, Twitter has made a huge comeback this year. I think, I mean, given just the social situation of it, but I think that's the social network that I've spent most time on. I mean, other than like maybe Instagram, but like I find like Instagram's more like mindless scrolling than Twitter. Twitter's a little bit more deliberate. It's been awesome, man. It's how we got connected. I always kind of plug Twitter on this podcast. I find so many great people on Twitter like yourself, man. So
completely agree.
Where can people find you online on Twitter? What's your at?
I'm just at Tom Osman on Twitter, and Instagram I think is the same. Yeah, I spend most of my day on Twitter.
Awesome. I'll link all your profiles as well as your podcast, Makerpad podcast down here. Yeah. Cool. Is there anything else you wanted to plug? Any last final words?
No, I don't think so. I think it'd also be awesome to see people actually creating like their own little products. Like I love it, whether it earns money or not, just people actually taking that dream idea they've had in their head and building something for one. And also, yeah, set yourself a big challenge on the running front. I love to see that, because you definitely, if I was capable of doing much more, and like the people who you meet at these events, you just become like instant friends with for life, whether you see them like once a year, once every 2 years. Yeah, it's just such a great community. So could recommend it enough.
That's awesome, man. You definitely convinced me. Maybe I'll have to just, face my inner bitch and do it in the winter here in Canada, because it gets fucking crazy cold in here. So I'm just going to have to do it, man. Just going to have to do it. Yeah. All right. Well, Tom, this has been awesome, man. Thanks so much for coming on Mind Meld. This has been such a fantastic podcast, and it was so much fun to talk to you, man. We have to do this again. This was really cool.
Absolutely. Appreciate you. Thanks for taking the time.
Awesome. All right. Take care, everyone listening. Next time. See you later.